Hey, Joe, the year is almost over. 2020 is almost over. And I know that for a lot of people, obviously, it's not an expected thing for me to say this, but it's a good thing that the year is over. I think we can say, as much as you can say a general comment for the entire world, much of the world has had a difficult 2020. Obviously, it would be good for us to kind of do a recap as to what happened in the world of online business and acquisitions, what we saw from where we sit, which is a unique perspective because we get to watch so many other business owners and how their businesses have gone, and also have a little bit of a look out to 2021 and what to expect there. I'll just start out with a really general comment to say, I know 2020 was rough for a lot of people on a lot of fronts, but for online business, there were some highlights.
Oh, without question. Now, there were some lowlights. We both have friends and clients that suffered in 2020. They thought they were going to have an incredible exit, and they had to pull back and hold off, perhaps until 2021. But overall, look, it started out with a bang, right? First quarter was pretty amazing, a great start. And then COVID hit, and we pulled back. Buyers pulled back, sellers pulled back, SBA deals took a little bit longer to close. And there was a little bit of fear there, where people were hoarding cash, holding on, and not sure what decision to make. And then it sort of changed and started to pick up steam again. Based upon the numbers so far this year, now this is airing December 29th, which, by the way, is my birthday. Happy birthday to my future self.
Oh, happy birthday, your future self. I'm going to forget. You know that.
Well, you just wished me happy birthday. Everybody that's listening today, go to Facebook and send me birthday wishes, please.
Hey, you know what? I think people need to get you a really nice Christmas/birthday gift.
I agree. What do you suggest?
I think they should rate the podcast.
I think they should rate the podcast too. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
That would be an awesome gift.
Let's get 20 new podcast reviews on December 29th. Let's shoot for it, folks. Please rate the podcast. I'll send you a personal thank you note. I'd appreciate it.
Awesome.
Now, where the heck was I? What was I?
Oh, we were talking 2020. 2020, bad things, good things. Then you mentioned your birthday and we got distracted.
Totally distracted. It's easy to get distracted. So there was a lot of fear, but it got back on track. Now, closing at the end of the year, predicting out another 16 days to the end of the year from when we're recording this, will we as a company be flat, be up, or be down in total transaction value close compared to 2019?
We are going to be up, and by a lot. It's a weird year, right? So all the way up, again, we're recording this on December 15th, and I've been watching the numbers here in December. If we track our year-over-year transactions, both in terms of volume and in dollar amount, up until today, literally today, December 15th, we've been trailing last year, both in terms of our revenue and also in terms of the total volume of transactions. I think I looked at it today and we're like $40,000 short of where we were this time last year. Our anticipation, though, based on what's scheduled to close in the next 2 weeks, just with our company alone, is that we're going to beat last year by a lot, by around 40%, potentially as much as 40% of last year's revenue. So again, just to put this in perspective, we're going to go from being even with last year, essentially even, to beating it by 40%, assuming what we have scheduled to closes. So odd year where it's been, our business by its very nature is lumpy. And for those listening, I know this is a little bit of inside baseball, but the world of brokerage is a lot of peaks and valleys. If you took a look at our revenue on just a monthly basis, you would see some really staggering months and then some months that are really kind of not revenue rich at all. It's just the nature of having closings with large commissions on them. So it's not unusual for us to have these sort of wild swings from one month to the next. But this year has been a little bit different. We definitely had a lull right around the time that a lot of people had a lull as everybody was trying to figure this world out. Mm-hmm. And then towards the fourth quarter, boy, did it pick up. It picked up in a hurry.
Yeah, and the last 2 weeks of the year are going to make an enormous difference for us. But oddly enough, I'm looking at our 2018 to 19 growth, and it's about the same, about that 40% year over year growth. What's interesting, and for those that don't know that we do this, is that our referral revenue, we pay referrals to folks that refer us. We don't advertise it. It's just somebody sends an email introduction and if they become a client, we do pay a referral fee. Those are up 13% overall from 2019. So thank you to everyone that is speaking so highly and referring clients to us, whether you're a previous client or owner of a mastermind group or whatever it might be. We appreciate that.
I want to actually just piggyback on that. It's up 13% in terms of the number of people that we paid out referral fees, or the percentage of deals.
Yeah.
Dollar wise,
Yes.
I'm throwing this in your court. Take a guess. What is the increase in the referral fees that we paid out this year?
Total dollars?
Totally, just in percentage.
I have to do some quick math because I'm looking at the closed sales report over here on my monitor.
Fine. You know what? Rather than make people wait, 73% increase
Holy cow.
in referral fees that we've paid out to people for the referrals. Again, we really appreciate these referrals. These are awesome. They're not only about the clients, it's about the trust that we know that you're imparting upon us, and also the people that are trusting you with the recommendations. So we do appreciate it beyond just the business side of it. But yeah, the referral fee, what we're paying out is significant. These can be as little as a few $100s. I think our biggest referral fee this year was upwards of $40,000 for a single referral. And I know some of the referral fees that we paid out this year were on a larger transaction where people who referred a deal, I think to me 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they got paid out last summer, and then they got paid out again this summer, a fairly significant sum of money. So nice deal for them. One email introduction, and they got 2 years of pretty significant income.
It's a beautiful thing for everybody involved. I've got a deal closing on the 17th, so 2 days, and that was a referral deal. And the person that referred it is going to get a nice Christmas bonus of about $25,000 or so. And it was a referral that came in, I want to say, almost 2 years ago. It was a business that we were going to list, but the numbers just weren't quite strong enough. And the advice to the client was, maybe you should wait. If you really want to hit your goal, wait. And we've gone from a goal of, I think it was 2.1 million 2 years ago for an exit, and we ended up exiting closer to 3.5. So it was good to wait, and it's good referral fee all around.
So I haven't told you this, Joe, but wow, recently we hired a CFO for Quiet Light. It's something that I'm a big advocate now for our clients and for people listening to this. If you have a business that's doing over $1 million in revenue, highly recommend hiring a CFO. It's one of the better investments you'll make. And the CFO, we track all of our referrals within our CRM. So we have everything tagged in there to make sure that when something closes, because it can be a while from that time you make that email introduction to when that person is actually ready to go to market to when the deal actually closes. It can take a year or more in some cases for that to close. And oftentimes people forget that they made an introduction. Well, we actually had a deal that closed in June. And it was the source of a referral, and everything was tracked properly. But I dropped the ball when I was handing out the payments, and I didn't send the person. I know, right? And I didn't send the person their money. They didn't even know about it because it was an introduction that happened a while ago. But because we have these multiple checks in place, our CFO came back to us and said, "Hey, I'm not finding this referral fee." And sure enough, he was right. And so imagine the surprise for the person who made that referral when I sent him an email the other day and said, "Hey, I want to send you $13,900. Can you send me your wire information? By the way, this is for the referral that you made over to me a while ago. It did close. I apologize for the delay." Obviously super appreciative. He didn't have to bug me about it. I love making those payments. Like
I love it. Yeah.
It's weird to say that I like paying people money, but for referral fees, it's fun. I enjoy it because it makes people stay. And we've done that a number of times where somebody didn't know that there was even a referral program. But if you are listening, that's something that we do have and can be an easy way to make a little bit of money.
2020 was a year where our deal sizes varied more than any other year. I'm looking over at the closed sales report. I think our smallest deal was around 16,000. Yeah, just above $16,000 in 2020. Whereas 2019, it was closer to 30,000. You want to talk about some of the larger deals and where some of our advisors are moving in terms of size, transaction size?
Well, we have to be a little careful with this because obviously, until a deal closes, it's certainly not a guaranteed sort of event. But with two transactions, we have two transactions right now where the combined value would be over 45 million for those transactions. We've been playing around much more in this space over the course of the last 18 months, where we've closed an 8-figure transaction. We've been talking to clients anywhere from the range of 12, 13 million, upwards of having serious conversations with groups in the 60, 70, $80 million range, where we're exploring this. We're taking a look to see, is this who we want to become as a brokerage? And if so, how do we do this in a way that's really effective? We do have some advisors on the team who want to specialize a lot more in this space. Now, for those listening, you might wonder, well, why wouldn't you want to be in this space? Why wouldn't you? I mean, a $20 million deal sounds like be worth a lot more than $1 million deal. But Joe, I know you're one person on the team here, and you're not alone. We have a number of people on the team who are looking at this band of different deal sizes and saying, well, you know what? Working between $1 and $10 million sounds really, really nice. Why is that?
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to someone that graduated from Wharton Business School the other day, been very, very successful, and went the entrepreneurial route, whereas many of his colleagues went the CEO route of publicly traded companies. He said, I can't hang with those guys. If I'm going to have a beer, I want to hang with the entrepreneur. I want to work with that bootstrap small business person, and that's who I enjoy hanging out with. And it not that a business that is going to sell for $25 million is operated by somebody that is more highbrow and not my people necessarily. But strangely enough, I enjoy the impact that a smaller transaction, let's call it sub 5 million, will have on somebody's, and it's a strange thing, on somebody's life, because it turns much quicker. So, you and I think, make great partners for two different reasons. One, because you always take a long-term view of things and you're incredibly detailed and want to get it perfect. I balance that out by going ready, fire, aim often. And because of my approach, I like transactions that are actionable. They take form quickly. We move through listing, LOI, closing fairly quickly. $10, $20 million deal is going to take 6 months or so. And I'm not used to that. I think our average time from letter of intent, from listing to closing in 2020 is about 125 days. That's up a little bit because of COVID. That's kind of my sweet spot, and I'm going to stick to it. And I love the fact, as you said, that we have some advisors that have raised their hands and said, I love this space. I want to focus on that space. And so we've got a good balance of advisors now, including myself and you. We have a total of 12. We added 2 in 2020, right? And 2 in 2019. So we're growing, and we may continue to grow slowly with advisors. Mark and I will do less and less advising and brokering ourselves as some of the other team members step up and take on more and more of those transactions.
Yeah, this is a point that I find interesting in this space, right? Because I know some of the other companies in our space they've grown very, very quickly, and have even used it within some of their marketing. We are the largest team in this space, right? Join the largest team that out there for advising, but we've intentionally grown at a slower rate. When I talk to sellers and even buyers, probably more so buyers, I try to express that we'll never be the highest volume brokerage out there. It's just not going to happen. The way that we're set up, we're not going to be able to take on that much deal flow, and nor do we want to. And secondly, we're never going to have the largest team as well. And I think one of the reasons that we've been hesitant to bring on additional people is trying to get that culture right. Culture is such an important thing for Quiet Light, and I also think for the experience of the buyers and the sellers that are out there. Because if the culture of the company, of us that are acting as the intermediary, is wrong or toxic or setting up this attitude of greediness or just trying to churn businesses, it has an impact downstream on the clients and the people that are actually doing the transacting. So it has been a year of growth. We have added some team members, and it's been an interesting experience, especially, as the founder of the company, to look at how can we retain the culture that we've had, since you came on, Joe, since Jason and Amanda, and it was really just the four of us for a while there, Diane helping out in the way that she's helped out.
Mm-hmm.
And how can we retain that sort of core culture that we were able to build up back then, and literally triple the size of this team with some amazing personalities, some amazing people. We have an Emmy-nominated advisor on the team now, right? I mean, he held up his Emmy.
Who's that?
Yeah, right. It's been a few minutes, and you'll hear about it.
It's impressive, no question. We're talking about Walker here, folks. Walker is a best-selling author. He is going to hit 30,000 copies of his book sold this month. And he was just nominated for an Emmy, which is amazing for a documentary that he produced, right? What was the name of the documentary? Something
It's called Wrestle. You can find it on Amazon. I haven't watched it yet. I watched the trailer. A few of his documentaries, and we're getting a little off the path here, but I'd highly recommend, if you want to see two of Walker's documentaries that he's done. I watched both of these, and they are fantastic. Print the Legend would be number one, and it's a great documentary for anyone who just enjoys business and wants to see that startup game turn into a VC game. It's a fascinating documentary. The second one is Finders Keepers. I guarantee you will love Finders Keepers, and you'll refer it to all of your friends because it is just that good of a documentary. It's might be one of my all-time favorite documentaries. So that's my movie recommendation.
I'm going to have to listen to this podcast and write those down instead of having you repeat them now. I haven't watched any of them.
Oh my gosh. Watch Finders Keepers.
I talk to him every day. Taking the time at night to watch his documentaries. I guess I can figure it out.
He doesn't show up in them, so you don't have to worry about that.
That's true. In terms of the team and the culture, we've added, it's interesting this year versus last year, 2020 versus 2019. In 2019, we added two amazing entrepreneurs, David Newell and Chris Guthrie, that have more SaaS experience combined than I think the rest of the team combined. And it's such a welcome addition to the team. And David wrote a SaaS guide that you guys can find on our website about exiting your business and when a SaaS business, and when it flips from a multiple of discretionary earnings to a multiple of revenue, which I found fascinating. And it's actually going to be part of, and it's a plug, part of my upcoming book, which we'll talk about in 2021. It'll launch in April. Chris is a legend. I didn't know he was a legend until he was on the team. And every time I talk to somebody that's an influencer, they're like, "You've got Guthrie on the team? You're kidding me. That's an amazing addition." He's a legend. And it's stunning how many people know him from back when he was podcasting and helping people launch their businesses and grow them. In 2019, that was the two additions. In 2020, we added Wozniak. Yeah. We don't want to call him Chris because his name is Chris Wozniak. He's just Woz to us. Who has been a brick and mortar business broker, an online entrepreneur, a buyer's broker, comes to the table with credentials up the wazoo. And
wazoo?
Yeah.
That's a little pun.
I'm going to have to look. It is. Look at that. I didn't even get that. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
So sorry.
No, that's good. Another tangent. And then, my goodness, Pat Yates just joined the team, like a month ago. And Pat is, he's a Shark Tank alumni, did a deal with Robert and owns buyhappyfeet.com, which we all have at home now. Did you get your slippers?
I finally got my slippers. It's like pillows on your feet. They're amazing.
It's amazing. Everybody buy Happy Feet. They're incredible. Pat went and put the Quiet Light logo all over them and sent everybody on the team slippers for their entire family. He had to finance his house and refinance it in order to send Mark enough slippers because he's got like 80 children.
For all the kids. Actually, let's make a promise. And for the first 5 people who actually leave a rating on our podcast, we'll send you a pair of Quiet Light Happy Feet slippers. And if you really don't want the Quiet Light logo on them, then we'll find something else for you with that. That sounds fair, right?
Done. Promised. Yes.
Yeah, they're awesome. They really are good.
I'm gonna look at the Total reviews, we have the morning of the 29th and then the evening of the 29th. And all those editions, the first 5 will get some Happy Feet slippers.
You have to leave a review because otherwise we don't know who it was.
That's right.
Joe, let's pivot real quick to a topic that I'm sure everybody is sick of. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. And that is the topic of the pandemic. If we're doing a look back on 2020, we need to take a little bit of time to address, the elephant in the 2020 room, which was the pandemic. Obviously, March was kind of when everything hit the fan, and we were all trying to gauge. I'll tell you my big regret with the pandemic, and that was shortly after everything shut down and the market crashed. There was a lot of questions as to what is going to happen. We had a big internal discussion here as to what was going on, and should we publish a piece? Should we write something about what's going to happen next? And I remember saying very clearly, I don't want to be peering into a crystal ball and trying to predict what's going to happen. Well, we ended up doing just that. And we ended up writing a long blog post. It was a collaborative piece where we asked everybody what they were seeing. And for the most part, our conclusion at the time was we think it's going to be business as usual. So the reason that I regret it is because I think we were actually right long term. And we can see that in our numbers this year. We're going to be up about 40% year over year, assuming things close as scheduled. So that's actually good news. Where we were wrong is the short term sort of outlook. When we wrote that blog piece, what was pretty funny is everything was actually kicking along at a pretty decent rate. But it wasn't until about a week after or 2 weeks after that we did lose a couple of deals, or a couple of deals had to go on hold and waited for the pandemic to just kind of settle out. We had sellers were backing out for a couple of reasons. A few were hit by the pandemic in a negative way, or inventory outages from China, whereas a lot of others, and this is probably more of what I've seen, were really trying to adjust to the bump that they were having and trying to figure out, what do I do with this? I know that the valuation of my company is on the trailing 12 months basis, but the last month alone is about the same as my 12 months previous, or some crazy huge numbers. How does this factor into my valuation? So let's just pump the brakes on selling and let's try and see what happens. And so this has kind of led to this. If you take a look at just the volume of deals that we did, there's definitely a noticeable dip in April, and then May we started to recover. In June we definitely recovered quite a bit as well. So there was a short-term dip that we weren't really expecting, but not in a bad way necessarily.
Yeah. I want to address that and also talk about, there's been a slight dip in our average deal size. That may change again before the end of the year, but it's because every time we bring on new advisors, there's a little bit of a dip. What I don't want people listening to think is that we're only focused on those 8-figure deals, because our average deal size is just under $1 million. It will pop up to probably close to 1.5 or so. But again, largest going to be in the 8-figure range, starting with the 2 lowest, just really small, under 17,000. As far as what we did and what we had to do with regard to COVID bumps was art. It wasn't science. We used as much math and logic as possible, but we had to look at everything from a buyer's point of view. I had a listing in particular where it had a COVID bump, and we looked at the trailing 12 and then the prior trailing 12. And it had been growing consistently at about 25% year over year. And then it had a 75% bump. And so we kind of made an adjustment down in our own math. We didn't adjust the P&L, but we made our adjustment down and said, okay, well, if it was a non-COVID bump year, where would we be? Let's apply a multiple to that. Let's put the price there. And then ultimately it made the multiple look really, really attractive, lower, but it was just doing what we could to protect both buyers and sellers. Because if you overprice it because of a COVID bump, you're not helping anyone. Buyers are going to balk and sellers are going to sit there going, what's happening? Why is my business not selling? So we had to adjust it with art, a little bit of science, a little bit of math and logic, but to the best of our ability. Sometimes we were right. Sometimes we were wrong. I had a listing that fell apart completely. It was a COVID bump. We made all those adjustments. And then September's numbers were lower than September of last year's numbers. And it was mostly because they were selling neck gaiters that people were using as face masks. So that one tanked. I had a business that was listed when COVID hit. It was in the wedding space, and that one completely tanked.
We had another one that was in the cruise industry.
Oops. Yeah.
that was about to go to market right before
Yeah.
all the shutdowns. Obviously, that
Yeah.
got hit as well.
So what do you think, that's looking back to 2020. What do you think the outlook for 2021 is going to be in the space that we're in?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've almost seen and what it feels like is happening. And I hate to use such a subjective term as feels. There is some data behind this, but just from the conversations that we've been having with potential sellers, 2021 is shaping up right now to be quite a big year for people coming to market. I think among those that are business owners, 2020 was an interesting, difficult, tumultuous year. We're not really breaking any news when we say that. And it brought a lot of people to some bigger questions in life as to what do I really want to do? Do I want to own this business? Do I have the stomach for some of the changes here? Having inventory outages from China was difficult for a lot of sellers to absorb. It was very scary. They didn't know what was going to happen. Having Amazon say, we're not accepting products from you for a while because we need to prioritize household items was frightening for a lot of people as well. Conversely, seeing the numbers spike up and then having to try and manage that, I mean, it brought a lot of people to some questions as to what do I want to do? And I do know a lot of sellers who are in the position of thinking, let me figure out this year, and then I'm going to sell next year, and we'll see if that actually happens. Obviously, when things calm down, maybe a lot of these sellers who otherwise would be coming to market will say, you know what, that we got through it, we're okay, we like where we're at, and the new floor that we have as far as revenue is actually much higher than we expected it to be. So that's a possibility as well. But 2021 right now is shaping up to be a banner year for transactions, both on the buy side and on the sell side, because one of the other elements that we saw in 2020 was an increase in the buyers for Amazon FBA spaces, particularly those that are aggregating these various companies. And I know I've done interviews with multiple publications, including Forbes and Practical E-commerce, about these aggregating companies and the rise of these aggregating companies. So that's what I'm seeing for 2021, Joe. I don't know if you have anything else on that.
Yeah, I think 2021 could be a banner year as well. We have, a potential deal flow problem, right? We've had in many of the listings that we've launched in the last 60 days, we've had multiple offers, more and more buyers than listings available. The last one that I launched, I had 6 offers on a $3 million listing. Prior to that, I had 9 on a $1,050,000 listing. We need more deal flow. So we've brought on Rick Au to head up our deal flow to help improve that, to reach out. First time in 14 years, we're ever going to reach out to, in this particular case, FBA business owners and say, hey, look, if you're ever thinking about selling, let us help. And the way that we help is education. It's not a pitch that this is what your business is worth. It's education. It's like that one I just mentioned that, we were initially introduced to the owner almost 2 years ago, and her goal was 2.1. Well, we educated her and she held on, and now she's at 3.5 with an exit, made more money along the way. We need more deal flow. There are more buyers than sellers. So this is my plea to anybody listening that does own any kind of online business. Get a valuation first and foremost so that you can understand what your business is worth. Because you can't set an exit goal and chart a path to that unless you know where you are today. Now, that's not a prediction for 2021. It's a predicament for 2021 that we need more deal flow, especially if we, again, grow by another 40%, which it could be more than that in terms of total number of transactions in 2021. Total value, we'll see. Much will depend upon these 8-figure deals and how many more show up. Prediction-wise, in terms of multiples, though, now our last podcast on the 22nd of December was about multiples and how much we despise them. I do expect them, though, to rise slowly in 2021, simply and complexly because of these aggregators. They're competing against each other, and they have committed capital to spend, and people that work with us avoid the ignorance discount that they'd be giving by working directly with them, because you will actually have your discretionary earnings calculated properly. But I think that we're going to see some of them needing to push the multiples up in order to buy, because there's again a deal flow problem, especially on the FBA side.
What do you think this means for individual investors? For those that are listening and thinking, well, man, can I even compete in this space if there's all these new aggregators out there?
Oh, they definitely can. The aggregators are limited in many ways. In particular, when they are given money, like we have one that was given they've got 175 million in capital, committed capital that they have to deploy. But with that, they can only purchase up to a certain multiple. And then they've got to, do a percentage cash. Then they got to do an earnout. Then they've got to do a stability payment. They've got to do seller notes. The individual buyer, whether you're a cash buyer or SBA buyer, can be much, much more attractive to a seller because it's less complex. Now, the aggregators, pitch that, they can close quickly and all of these other things. I don't think it makes a difference. The individual seller will pick a buyer that is the right fit and feel for them. And the biggest secret to being a great buyer is don't be go ahead, Mark, fill in the blank.
Don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk. You know what? Yeah,
I was going to swear, so good for you for not swearing.
We're trying to keep this PG. Keep that warning off of the podcast. Parental advice. Anyways, here we go. Number of offers per LOI. This is a stat that we track internally, and the numbers actually support what you're saying. Now, you hear this and you may not think that it's that big of a change, but we've gone from on average 2.5 offers per deal up to 2.88, so 2.9 essentially. So we are seeing an increase in the number of offers that every one of our deals are bringing on. And just anecdotally, talking to the different advisors on the team, the volume of inquiries that we get for every single listing has gone up substantially, from 200, maybe 220 inquiries within a 48-hour window, to upwards of 400 plus in some cases, and having a lot of competition for these deals. So I agree. I do think, though, despite that increased competition, can individual investors still compete? Absolutely. Absolutely. The aggregators are locked into the way that they do things to a certain extent. Individual investors have the ability to be somewhat more creative and also don't have the same restrictive covenants that some of these aggregators have, which are going to bind their hands. There's a reason as well that this is becoming such a friendly market for sellers, and so many buyers are entering into the space, because we can all read the tea leaves. We know that online business is here to stay. We know that it's here to grow over the next several years, and the pandemic simply accelerated this. Once we understand what the post-COVID world looks like, we will have a much better sense of the future of the online world. And my guess is that we have this big old bump from COVID. We will have some retraction, but that floor of revenue that we would expect for an online business is going to be substantially higher than it was pre-COVID. And I think that is what we're seeing from buyers. That's what a lot of people are betting on, both in the public markets and also within our little slice of the industry in the world.
Yeah, and we didn't even touch on the political instability of 2020 on top of COVID.
About? Yeah, it's been totally common. Perfect.
Totally.
No issues.
The racial divides, the instability with political stuff, it's just an awful year. I can't wait to blink and have it be behind us, but it's not going to happen in 3 days. It'll be 2021, and we'll still be wearing masks and all that good stuff, and have another 19 days until the new president is takes the oath. Yes, takes the oath.
Yes,
inaugurated. Yes. 2021, I think, will be yet again another banner year. So I think for those that are in the e-commerce space, you're in the right place at the right time. If you look out another decade, no question about it. This is only a space that's going to grow. And that includes you and I, Mark. We're in the right place at the right time. Of course, when you started this company in 2007, you may not have thought that. And when I started in 2012 with Quiet Light, my colleagues and best friends thought I was nuts. Well, I made the right decision, folks. I'm in the right place at the right time. Love what I do. I love helping more and more people. For those that are out there as individual buyers, just stay in touch, stay on top of the listings, absorb the material that we have. When the right listing comes out, you should know it's the right listing because you've looked at every listing that we have. The more you look at, the more you're going to know the right fit when it comes along and be able to act with confidence. Get your financing straight. Get a HELOC lined up. Get a line of credit on anything you can get a line of credit on, and get your cash in place. If you're not SBA pre-approved, get SBA pre-approved. For sellers, get a valuation. You won't know how close or how far you are to achieving your goal if you don't know where you are today. And there's a lot of nuances to it. Mark, you and I have talked about the 3 levels of add backs, and there's 6 levels to each one. That's 18 different levels of add backs. But the truth is there's double that. There's double that. There's so many nuances to it that will help you avoid the ignorance factor and, get a real value for your business. And you can look forward. And it's amazing. I've worked with so many clients over the last 8.5 years now where they come to I want to sell my business because I'm tired, I'm beaten up, I'm emotionally just done. And then we go through that valuation process and the lights go on and they're like, holy, you know what? Right, PG. I guess I can say shit if it's PG, right? Holy shit. They're like inspired and motivated, and those really rough patches that we all have as entrepreneurs. And Mark, you and I have had them, right? There's no question we made bad investments. Those rough patches are so much easier to get over when you know the true value of your potentially greatest asset, and that's being your business. So get that valuation, get the education, and do everything you can to set yourself up for success in the future.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, I don't do a lot of actual deal work these days. And that's partially for the benefit of our clients, just because I understand what my level of commitment is to the deal and other elements of the business, right? I'm distracted by a lot of things. And I want our clients to have somebody who is solely focused on that. But I do valuation calls still. And one of my favorite things with this business is having these valuation calls. And at the end, hearing somebody say, this was one of the most insightful calls I've ever had, right? Where they've learned something about their business that they've never really understood before. And a world has been opened up to them. An aha moment exists where they suddenly see their business as the asset that it is, the sellable asset that it is, and also what it could be. If you are not into talking to people on the phone or don't want to go through that pains of doing evaluation, which it really isn't painful, it's a single phone call. We can typically give you a general idea from that. I did put together a course. You can find it at courses.quietlightbrokerage.com. It's I believe 3 hours in total, but I broke it up into 5-minute segments where we go over I go over all the elements of evaluation. How to calculate discretionary earnings would be one element of it, but also the 4 pillars of value. And then we take a look at 3 specific deals. So real world transactions, and how these 4 pillars of value and how the discretionary earnings play into the valuations in an actual transaction. Because once you actually get into these deals, you start to see the nuance that can really play in. Again, that's at courses.quietlightbrokerage.com. We don't charge for it at all. It's through teachable.com. You can register for free and take it, and let me know what you think about it. But
we should charge for it because it will get people to actually go through the whole course. If you go through the course, you will get, I want to say, an amazing return on investment, but there's no investment. I mean, but if you paid $5,000 for it, you're going to make 10 times return on your investment because you're going to tweak what you do in your business. And that will, increase its value tenfold in terms of the investment if it was a $5,000 course. But it's free because we help first more than anything else. The valuations are free. And it's not just Mark and I. There's 10 other incredible entrepreneurs that are advisors on our team that you would be having valuation calls with. So you can go and fill out the valuation form online, or go to the About Us page, read our profiles, pick somebody that you think you'll connect with more than anybody else, and just send them an email or call them. We're all accessible in that way.
All right, Joe, hopes for 2021. I want to talk about any goals or hopes or dreams you have. And I know we're just kind of winging this here, so you may not have thought about this. I'll buy you some time to think by saying my hope is that we get to travel again this year and have some conferences. The conferences, I have a love-hate relationship with them. Leaving the family for a few days is always, a bit of a chore. And I always leave thinking, I wish I wasn't leaving. But then I get to the conferences and I get to see some of the people that we know, buyers, past sellers, or just our friends in the industry. I miss it. I miss seeing some of the people out there that we've hung out with at so many different conferences in the past. I'm hoping that we get to do this again here in 2021, start up some travel and get together with people and just hang out with some of this awesome entrepreneur community that we have. So that's my big hope for 2021, is that at least at the second half of the year, we can start traveling again to some of these events.
Yeah, I look forward to that as well. I forget when we go to these conferences that we're actually at the point of just going to meet old friends because we've gone to the same ones over and over again. On that front, I would love to learn about and go to new conferences with new groups that we've never met before. So if you're part of a mastermind group that we've never mentioned on this podcast, reach out to us because we'd love to help. We'd love to share our experience and education and information so that, the members of that mastermind can grow their businesses and, their potential value if they do eventually exit. My personal goals for 2021, yes, I want to travel. I want to get back to life as normal. But I want to be very intentional about the work that I do and the time that I spend my energy on. Simply because it's easy for us as individuals and as entrepreneurs and as a company just to drift in whatever direction the wind takes us, right? For a long time, we were being pulled into this 8-figure listing area and we were resisting it. But we've got some advisors that are really gung-ho and talented and want to take it on. And so, you and I personally maybe resisted a little bit. You closed one in that area. Mine was just short of that. But we're okay with it now and we're being intentional about it. I want to be intentional about my time as well. And I'm no Walker Dibble is what I'm going to say every time I talk about my upcoming book. I'm no Walker Dibble, but I've been working on the Exitpreneurs Playbook for 13 months now, right? It's going to be published in April. And my hopes for 2021 are not that I sell thousands of books for my ego. It's to help thousands of people understand all of the nuances of what we do and what the value of their business is, right? I've talked to at least 5,000 entrepreneurs individually, one-on-one over the last 8.5 years. Now everything's going to be in the book. And so it's going to be a reference guide to everything that we've talked about, that you've taught me, that Jason has taught us, that Amanda has taught us, that we've learned through Brad and Chuck and Walker and David and everybody else. It's all going to be in one place. That's going to be a great reference for people to really understand definitively how this thing works in terms of online businesses and what the values are.
That's fantastic. And I would echo that as well. I know, with a growing company, as Quiet Light grows and our team grows, our roles change and we take on different roles. I'm really hopeful as well that I'm able to connect with more people on a one-on-one basis. I've gotten away from that largely because I've been pulled in different directions with Quiet Light, trying to set up different departments within the company that are going to help us grow and scale in the future while preserving some of the culture that we've had, which I think people have appreciated. As we kind of wrap this up and I look back on 2020, I started it off with the expected sentiment for 2020, which is good riddance. But I got to tell you, I actually have a little bit of an appreciation for 2020. I know it was a difficult year, but I really do believe that difficult times, difficult years, challenges are what sharpen us and make us better people. I tell my kids, when you hit adversity, it can make you bitter or it can make you better. You got to choose which one it's going to be. And we've had a great opportunity to become better this year. And so I have a great amount of thankfulness for 2020 because what I've seen over the past year is a real appreciation for those in our industry. We can start off with conferences. I really feel for those that have hosted some of these live conferences, the Ezra Firestones, the Chris Yates, the Andrew Udarian, all the people out there that are doing this and how much they have worked to try and accommodate and keep their communities thriving. And I've really appreciated our clients who have had to navigate through some really difficult decisions. And most importantly, boy, am I grateful for the team that we have, because as we've gone through, I hate the phrase uncharted waters, right? These unknown times, uncertain times. It's an overused phrase, but that's exactly what we've gone through. We've had a group of advisors here at Quiet Light who has been able to work collaboratively, and I feel like we've really done this as a team, gotten through 2020. And again, we're set to be up 40% year over year, which is phenomenal. And it's not only just the numbers. I think what we've been able to do this year for infrastructure, what we've built in the future, we have some announcements coming out in 2021, which I'm excited about. Some content announcements, which I think will be very exciting. We'll wait until those actually come out. Your book is coming out in 2021. Honestly, 2020, as difficult as you've been, I got to thank you as well. It's been an interesting year, a formative year, and I don't ever want to look back on challenges and say that I hate them, because we wouldn't be who we are without those challenges.
You are such a grown-up, and
Oh, that's my wife.
No, just the message that you give is fantastic. So I'm going to go the opposite route, and I'm going to say, as a reminder, folks, it is my birthday. Wish me a happy birthday. Do it, though, through giving us a positive review here on the podcast. Go ahead and do that. Let's jack up our total reviews in 2021. And for the first 5, we're going to send you a nice pair of Happy Feet slippers that have the Quiet Light logo on it, or any pair that you want. Any pair that you want. Chuck has 3 little girls. It's a Happy Feet promotion if I've ever seen it. He used Loom, videoed himself with his 3 girls on his lap looking at the Happy Feet website, and it was precious. It was unbelievable. So selfishly, let's get you some slippers with the Quiet Light logo by giving us some reviews for the Quiet Light podcast. This is the second time we've ever asked for them, both in the month of December. We might be doing it more in 2021. Thanks everyone for sticking with us, for helping us, for guiding us, for listening to us and sharing your experience in 2021 and in the past. 2020 in the past. Looking forward to 2021.